Hey guys, I'm Alex. So you come to this video. You're struggling in the course, or you're wanting to know preemptively generally some practice to do when you're struggling in class. All right, cool. So let's get started. For some just immediate reference, this is a hard course. It's entirely reasonable to be struggling in it. And don't be too stressed. It'll be all right. So yeah, let's first cover some of the course expectations and the workflow. So you can see the course broken down as quizzes, homework part ones, homework part twos, and the project. Oh, the quizzes are meant primarily to allow you to revise, understand the material that was covered in course lecture. Don't stress too much about this. Individually, each quiz is not worth that significant amount. And if you struggle a lot, you can always just come and talk to the TAs. We're happy to help. Homework P1 is more foundational code and theory, stuff like building out portions of PyTorch or that type of thing generally. Yeah, so usually it's actually applying theories from papers or in course or lecture, so on. And yeah, you'll be mostly developing my torch across the semester. This is hard and can be a little finicky, and again, you're welcome to talk to the TAs, come to office hours. We'd love to help you. Homework P2 is the competitions portion of the course. This is where you're working on Kaggle and you're actually making submissions in a competition and you're trying to cross a certain cutoff for grades. Often we find that students are really, really stressed out with this portion. So don't be. Let's say that you're trying to get for homework one, part two. Let's say you need 86% for the high cutoff and you get 85.8%. You may think to yourself initially, if you hadn't gone through the course policies too heavily, oh no, I'm gonna get a much, much worse grade because I didn't hit the cutoff. In fact, it's linearly interpolated. So again, there's no need to stress too much. There's also a large amount of bonus homework you can find under the homework ones as they release and autograd, so it'll be okay. And the project, ultimately for the project, the largest thing you can do to make it not as bad and not as stressful is to start early. Start early and work with your team, and that goes for generally everything here. The homework part twos, for example, are incredibly beneficial to discuss stuff with your team. So for the quizzes, you need to make sure you set aside sufficient time. It can take a fair amount of the weekend, especially if you're cramming it or if you might have been missing lecture. I know, for example, for my semester that I got sick and I missed a couple of lectures near the end, and it made it quite hard to actually complete these in reasonable time. You do get multiple attempts, though, and if you're attending lectures and you're taking notes, it's fine. It's not too bad. But just make sure that you start on them early so you don't get yourself in a bad position. And yeah, we end up also dropping a portion of the ones that are done worse, too, as detailed in the slides in the course policy page. Yeah, similar thing for homework one or homework part one. Starting early is the ultimate way to just get ahead in this. If you start very, very close to the deadline, you'll find it to be extremely difficult for some of the homeworks, especially where it's a lot of debugging. This becomes more true for the middle of the semester and end of the semester when homeworks start becoming much more difficult to do the coding for compared to the beginning, which is relatively straightforward. Yeah, also watch some of the recitation zeros if you get stuck on something. It's definitely worth checking them, since often they'll have covered topics specifically related to the homeworks, and it might be really, really helpful. As for part twos, yeah. So this is the bulk of the work. You'll be spending a lot of time training. This will take up a significant amount of the course. But this is one of the cool things about this course as compared to a lot of others at the university. You have a team. Yes, your work is your own, you submit alone, but you are allowed to discuss with them, and it helps a lot. Additionally, all the TAs themselves have actually probably crossed the high cutoff very recently, just in their own testing, just for this particular semester, and themselves had crossed a high before. So you can definitely reach out to them and talk to the TAs during office hours, or even on Piazza within reason. And, we're always ready to help out. There's also going to be a TA assigned to your study group too, so you can always reach out to them too on Discord or however your group is communicating. As for the project it's pretty open-ended how you do it, but it's really important that you guys start early and maintain consistent schedules. You'll be working in a group, so it's important that you guys have good synergy in this way and, start early. You want to choose a project that intrigues you and, the team can share common interests. And yeah, one of the bigger things that people need to focus on when doing this is they want to pick something they're passionate about they can learn. You'll also have a mentor for this you can talk to, and they'll probably be able to help you a lot in regards to not feeling too stressed out with everything. So yeah, I'll cover really briefly a few of the things you can refer to if you're ever struggling. So yeah, we have course materials set up and some course resources, as well as the general CMU resources. So yeah, recitation zeros. I mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but we've expanded recitation zeros a lot in the more recent semesters. If you get confused about anything, say you're doing homework too, and you're confused about the block structure of how things work, or you don't understand how loading the model works in different situations or 1DB stuff, there's a recitation zero for that. And they're usually fairly in-depth, and they even have sample code provided with the notebooks usually. That's pretty good. That can often help you and save a lot of time and frustration. And if that fails, you can talk to the TAs. We're extremely responsive. I feel like it's really completely worth stressing this. Last semester, we had a response time for a majority of the course of 2 minutes for a response from a TA after you post. In my semester about a year ago, whenever I would ask a question, even if it was 3 in the morning, I would often get a response in just a few minutes. It's honestly quite remarkable, and we have a lot of people just always watching Piazza, so, you know. The other obvious location is course lectures. The professor has a lot of detail in the course lectures. They will basically cover everything needed, and they're incredibly important for the quizzes, for example, which will directly draw from them. Then there's the homework write-ups plus the notebooks. Yeah, we'll be also providing notebooks throughout the course in the actual recitations that are handled during the semester. Some of them are incredible. In my semester for homework 4, for example, a huge amount of code that was incredibly helpful for getting everything working in just the first place was just provided for you if you look through recitation. The write-ups are also incredibly in-depth, often including enough information to become at least like an entry-level expert at the topic you're reading about, or if not, redirect you to a huge amount of papers and material that can greatly improve your competency in whatever the homework's on. Also, they tend to have extremely detailed write-ups that'll explain how to do every individual step. It's worth consulting. It's easy to get bogged down and think, well, I'll just start right now and get stuck. But if you do get stuck, definitely remember to consult the write-up. Oftentimes, the write-up will have stuff, and people will ask the same questions on Piazza, but it'll just be in the write-up in the first place. You could have saved yourself some time. And yeah, I touched on this a little earlier. Recitations, boot camps. Boot camps come along with the major homeworks. They are incredibly helpful and generally give you a great foundation to start with. Recitations, similar thing, but these are more specialized in certain topics, though they all relate to the general themes of homeworks they're associated with and around. As for Piazza, yeah, Piazza is incredibly helpful. One of the nice things about it is because people respond so quickly and so many students are asking so many questions, a lot of the questions are public, meaning that oftentimes you encounter some very obscure bug. You might actually find it that someone's already answered it in great detail on Piazza. As well as you can just ask a private Piazza question for TAs and we'll respond very fast, as said earlier. As for office hours, there'll be office hours pretty much constantly with small breaks, but yeah, there's usually office hours every single day, maybe two, sometimes three, depending. And the nice thing about this is that if you have a more pointed or difficult question, or let's say Piazza's not working because your question is heavily theory based, it just takes a long time to explain, or you're not even necessarily sure why you're confused. Office hours is great. We can also help you guys within reason to debug portions of code, and I personally took advantage of this very heavily, but homework two or homework part twos. If you're struggling in homework part twos for optimizing, the TAs are just masters at this. Some of us were not just crossing the high cutoff, but we were like top two or three or five overall in the competitions for our semesters. We'd love to share whatever we can to help you guys. We won't just tell you exactly what to do, but we can give you very pointed, helpful advice on how to optimize your models, and it can be extremely helpful and save you a lot of time. So yeah, additional resources, study guides, and mentors. One of the really cool things about this course is how open it is to collaboration. You'll have TA mentors individually for your study groups, but you also have them for your project groups, as said earlier. You're allowed to talk about different things you did, appellation ideas, stuff like that. You just can't directly share code with your study groups. And this is honestly incredible since it allows you guys to kind of collaborate and think about what would work for optimizing the models best and save a lot of time because training can take a lot of time. Being able to discuss what worked, what didn't work, it's just to save you hours and hours, especially for stuff like homework too, that just takes a lot of time to train. And yeah, Dr. Raj. Dr. Raj is he's incredible. He's an incredible resource. He's very open to talk to students. He's willing to work with you if, you're just really struggling, you need a lot of help. Maybe come talk to him. I've just worked with him for a while. He's incredibly kind and incredibly helpful. You can find him in his office for most of the day, generally speaking. And if you don't find him there, there'll be a TA or two there at least. You can ask them where he is and, maybe schedule a meeting with him. So, yeah, there's office hours every day. I also want to stress that, yeah, we usually have office hours on the weekends too. The boot camp runs, or the hackathon runs for about 3 hours on the weekend as well. It's really significant, and you will probably want to be attending office hours pretty frequently. We'll even have remote office hours usually. So, yeah, this is just a brief coverage of Piazza versus office hours. Let's start with office hours. So, I mentioned before, office hours are where you go if you need to have a deeper conversation or your question requires more privacy. For example, yeah, you're debugging some extremely bizarre bug, you can't figure it out. It looks really weird. You're getting something like, I don't know, a CUDA error that doesn't seem to make sense to you. It's not memory related. And the only way to troubleshoot it is to show your code and just to sit there and mess with it for a while. And you spend a while on it, you're struggling. Yeah, that's a great opportunity for office hours. You can make a private host in Piazza, but you might benefit a lot more from going to office hours and just having someone sit with you and help you figure it out. Yeah, you might benefit a lot more from just having a TA sit with you and you guys just work through the problem. Is also the same way for conceptual questions. Piazza is good, but being able to immediately reply and ask questions on what you were specifically confused about with explanation until you refine it and fully understand, it's just so much better. Whereas Piazza is extremely good for hints for solving the homework. We'll sometimes post updates information to homework there that's really, really useful and helpful. And again, we respond really fast. My semesters, it's been like 2 or 3 minutes throughout most of the semester is the average response time. Sometimes it's faster for individual periods, obviously, but it's pretty good. If you have an extremely difficult question that is just not feasible to ask in office hours, but doesn't feel like it would make sense for office hours as well, you can also ask it there too. It's fine. It's reasonable to ask, and feel free to also use Piazza as liberally as you would like. Just put something as private if it makes sense to be private. For example, don't code share. So yeah, we'll talk briefly about study groups a little more. So study groups they're great, let you collaborate. Usually shortly after the semester begins, after a week or two, TAs will reach out to everyone who are in the assigned study groups. Early on, you guys can request specific people to be in your study group, or you can request changes if you're discontent. Just reach out to the TAs, and yeah, we'll get in touch with you pretty early on. But it's really crucial that you guys stay in touch with your study groups. Whenever people don't keep up with their study groups and they don't collaborate in regards to them, it just makes everything a lot harder. For example, you're not talking about how different appellations went for something like homework 2. And let's say it takes 24 to 48 hours to train. That's really bad. But if you have 3 or 4 people working and talking about it and theorizing, you can get it done 4 to 5 times as fast just because the amount of training it takes is so much. So you want to work with study groups. Yeah, and again, we were all students as well. Like if you guys need any help, just feel free to ask. And yeah, again, don't forget that you can also reach out to Dr. Biksha. He wants you to learn. He's an incredibly nice guy. I strongly recommend that if you have any confusion that you feel like you just are struggling to resolve, or you feel you need it's something that a TA can't specifically be helping you with, reach out to him. Come to his office. He's an incredibly, incredibly good resource. Yeah, and lastly, in regards to the toolkit for success, CMU resources. So, yeah, we have Student Academic Success Center and we have CAPS. I'll briefly cover them, right? So, yeah, the Student Academic Success Center is located in the basement of Syard Hall, behind Warner. You can reach out to them and talk to them and get an individual tutor for IDL, for example, get academic coaching to help you with study habits and in general for your other courses. It's a good resource. And yeah, for CAPS. CAPS is CMU's, you know, psychology and wellness services. They're free. They're pretty good sometimes. If you're really, really struggling, I recommend maybe reaching out to them. They can be helpful at times. And yeah, general things just to make sure to keep in mind, right? You need to start assignments early. Some of them take a lot of time to train. If you don't start early, sure, you have a model that'll converge to the high cutoff, right? But it's not going to train in time and you're going to have to take late days. And on that, you do have 10 late days you can take for homework twos. And this is great, but try not to get too carried away with it. You're going to want to cluster a lot of them during midterms or finals if you need it. You don't want to end up burning too many in the beginning and then being in a really rough spot in this regard. And yeah, additionally, for a little extra context on late days, we don't give late days for homework P1s generally, but if something happens, again, just reach out. We are infinitely flexible in this course. We're very, very flexible. We're reasonable. We ultimately care the most about you learning. That is the core, most important thing. So if you're struggling, reach out to us. And yeah, others are probably also struggling too. Again, study groups, just reach out to people. It's okay. And yeah, just don't forget to ask for help as often as you need, guys. It's completely fine. And yeah, I mean, also reach out to us, share your problems with us. We can definitely do whatever we can to help. It's completely fine, you know. In regards to disabilities, make sure you reach out to the professor if you need anything or we can help at all. It's completely all right. And yeah, about learning. And yeah, about learning. The prof likes to see whenever people are enthusiastic. It's always best that way. Best to have a strong desire to learn. And yeah, ultimately, every semester, there are a few students that slip through the cracks and they fail or drop the course because they're struggling a lot. We don't really want to see this. We'd prefer if everyone did fine. If something's happening, again, just reach out to us. It's okay. We'll do whatever we can to accommodate and help. It's all right. And I stress this especially because if you're watching this video and it's not just the beginning of the semester and you're watching all the recitation zeros, it probably is because you're struggling. So yeah, I'm Alex, Alexander Moker, the TA. You can personally reach out to me. I will do whatever I can to help within reason. It's all right. And yeah, back on this. Sometimes whenever a student is particularly struggling, like their quiz grade average is significantly lower than the mean, a couple standard deviations, something, a TA might reach out to them. Don't panic. This is all right. We'll actually try to help you and we'll give you whatever resources we can to help. We'll talk to you about it. It's all right. And same thing with students that just disappear, don't submit homework for a while, or respond to projects or study group emails. We're definitely here to help, guys. Like we'll reach out. Just don't panic if we do, you know? And yeah, more on struggling. People have a lot of stuff every semester they're doing. Like personally, I have two jobs right now plus IDL, and I'll be having them through the semester. People have a lot. It's fine. Uh, if you know, if you need help or you're really struggling with health issues or you're just drowning in work, you can talk to us. Come to office hours. We'd love to help. It's all right. It's all right. I stress this because often the case people just struggle in silence, but we really are very, very flexible trying to help people out here. And yeah, I believe you guys can do it. I mean, just reach out if you need any help. You can always come to Dr. Bixha's office in Gates, or come to office hours, or just even email us or message us